Hi, and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I am Desiree Holmes Scherini, your host, and I'm really delighted to have as my guest Susan Jane, who is a fellow intuitive who also teaches intuition through art and various means and uses her skills and has a wonderful story to share. Um, she has so much going on. We're going to get to that in our interview. She teaches, she does intuitive readings. She has a wonderful podcast. She has a book, and more is coming. So please welcome Susan. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Desiree. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And we were talking before the recording, and I pointed out that we're time traveling because she comes all the way from Australia, where it is the next morning, and I'm here in Washington, D.C., where it's the previous evening. So she's got her coffee, and so far I just still have water. But after this, I might just go have a sip of wine and relax. So anyway, as I was saying to Susan, we have such some similar, we have this similar path. A lot of things, our own awakening to intuition was very similar. A lot of my readers, not readers, my readers would know my path, but some of my listeners, I don't know if I've actually gone into it about myself. So maybe there's the pitch that I will be interviewed on Susan's podcast in a month or two. And maybe that's where you're here on my side. I just realized on my own podcast, I haven't gone into my story, but we have similar stories. And so I'm going to kind of start with whatever place you want to start with on how you became aware of your intuition, when you started embracing it, and what led you down this path.
Oh, thank you. It is a long story because it's lifelong. Obviously, everybody's intuitive. Everybody has that ability, and so it depends on how deep you want to go with it and how involved you want to get with it. But I guess I'd like to just explain what I see intuition as, because I see it as very simplistic and yet very, very deep. So the simplistic side of it, and from my learnings and my experiences that I've had, is that as far as I'm concerned, intuition is that communication between our spirit side, our soul, and our physical side. And like I said, it sounds very, very simplistic, but there's a lot of depth in that. So if we're getting these messages from our soul, our spirit side, and it's going to our physical body, how do they do that? Because the soul and the spirit doesn't have access to our 5 physical senses. Mm-hmm. So I look at it like the physical body is a car, a new modern day car, and the soul is the driver. And the soul has to work out the driver has to work out how to get that vehicle from point A to point B. Now, we know the physical body has come through all this DNA and generation after generation after generation. And we know the soul has been in other bodies before, has been in other lives before. Mm-hmm. So the soul's bringing in all this information and the physical body's bringing in all this information. So it's like one of those new cars that can park themselves. Or you let go of the wheel and let it do whatever it likes. So if the driver does that too often, then the car's going to do whatever it wants to do. And the soul isn't going to be able, the driver isn't going to be able to navigate or steer or direct it. And then we go one step further and we go, well, we think about life purpose. Now, our physical body doesn't have the life purpose as the spirit or the soul has a life purpose. Right. So in all honesty, the soul has the life purpose and has to try and navigate this physical body or this car. This driver has to navigate this car to get to the purpose. And they can only do it by pressing certain buttons. And those buttons are our intuitive messages that we're getting. So we know which way we need to go. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense to me, of course. So, I know that you've had experiences that have woken up that intuition, because I've noticed for myself, and I was talking to someone earlier today about this too, is that people just go about normal. They go about their day. They do their thing. They eat the breakfast. They go to work. They come home. They go to sleep. And sometimes it takes disruption, an event, something to wake you up and say, oh, wow, I just realized something. I just, it's that intuitive spark, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you need that motivation for the intuitive spark. So during your lifetime, what intuitive sparks happened for you?
So that's when I see them as like this car, our physical body has had the engine stopped, or that we've had a crash, or so we've seen something that's physical, that something's happened to us,
right?
And we need to recharge, redo something, change the way we're looking. With my experiences, so I've had 3 experiences that allowed me to leave my body. And the first experience I had was during, I was 2 states away from home on holidays, 19 years old. I was with my younger sister, who was 17, and I was involved in a pack rape. And during this pack rape, I left my body. Now, what had happened was I was walking back to the unit where we were staying, and my sister had gone earlier. I got a tap on the shoulder, turned around, and was king hit. So just wiped out completely. I came to getting dragged into the back of the car. And I remember, you do the regular thing, trying to fight and everything else. And of course, that creates more bruises and more issues. So I remember being there, and I said to myself, okay, I can't stop them doing what they are going to do to me. There's no way I can change that. There's 3 of them, there's only 1 of me. But how can I stop them or make them think twice at least about doing it again to someone else? And in an instant, I left my body. And when I talk about this situation, I actually refer to me as her, because it didn't feel like, it looked like me, but it didn't feel like me.
Right.
And yeah, it was really weird. And I knew I couldn't go away. I was basically standing outside the car looking.
Yeah, waiting.
When we leave our physical body, we have no emotional attachment. There was no feeling of anything. It was, I can remember looking around thinking, somebody should help her. That was all I could think of. So I'd ask this question, how can I stop them? And in an instant, I'd left the body. Now, when I was looking at her, you could see her face. You could see that energy coming out, like you see in a car on a road when you see the heat rising.
Yeah.
I could see that coming out of the side of the face where she'd been punched. You could see, and you could see the blood coming down the mouth, but I couldn't taste anything and I couldn't feel it. I could see the energy coming out of the back of the hair where the hair was all ripped out. Ouch. But I couldn't feel it. And then there was other areas, obviously, there was this energy coming out, but not being able to feel it. And I remember when I was in the car, the smell of alcohol and tobacco and, that was all in the car, where they've obviously been driving around stalking for a while, you could smell all that. When I'd left the body, there was no smell. So there's none of those 5 physical senses, which is really strange. And yet all you can say is, I see, because that's how you are aware of it, if that makes sense. So I left the body. I got the answer, and I don't know how long that was. I got the answer that I needed and was put straight back into the body. When you go back into the body, yes, you feel everything, and you feel it in one big foul swoop. It hits you everywhere. And then the emotions come back in and everything else comes back in with it. But the message I got, and again, I feel this was my message from my soul, my God, my greater universe, whatever you want to call it. The message I got was to pray. Now, I am not a religious person. I only knew 2 prayers. But I started saying, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. And that was the only one I knew. Well enough to sort of say it or recite it. And I said it out loud. I said it directly to them, not in my mind, not, just quietly. I said it out loud, and I got louder every time I said it. Of course, the punches and the hits became more ways they trying to stop me from saying it. And it wasn't until the hands went around the throat and the mouth that I basically passed out and couldn't keep saying it. So that was one incident, and basically they just left me on the side of the road in the gutter once they'd finished. But 12 months almost to the day, I was at work and I passed out at work and I had a near-death experience. So I had this whole other different experience. And I didn't know what it was until probably 10 years later when I started to do my research and readings. And I read about, oh, that sounds interesting. What's that about? And as I've read it, this particular book had, I think it had about 6 examples in it, or people that had experienced it. And I remember thinking, oh, that happened to me. Oh, that happened to me. Oh, that happened. And it started to make sense that I'd had this near-death experience. I still didn't understand what what was happening in that. And my attitude has been and always had been, I will not talk about the rape until I can find a positive spin on it. Yeah. Now, if you can imagine a 19-year-old saying, I'm not going to talk about it until I get a positive spin on it.
They're like, okay, she needs counseling. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't have any of that. Nothing like that. So yeah, it wasn't until I started doing this research and I realized that I'd had this near-death experience and left my body. And the main area about that, I mean, I can talk about the near-death experience, but the main area that made me realize that I'd had one is, if you can imagine laying on the floor. I don't know where I was laying, but I was on a floor, and you have everybody looking over you.
Right.
And you stand up. Everyone's gaze is going to come up with you. I was laying there, I remember standing up, and everybody's gaze stayed down. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what? I'm up here. Why aren't you looking at me?
Yeah.
And then in instant, I was in this near-death experience. So the doctor came and I had to have an adrenaline shot and come back. So that was those two. So then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, so 10 years later, going through my very emotionally abusive relationship, marriage, I started to get an understanding of who I was and what I was doing. So lots and lots of books. We didn't have podcasts, obviously, in those days. Lots and lots of books, getting an understanding. And one of the things I do say in any podcast or any book or anything else, take out the information that you want, that resonates with you, and let the rest go. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Just take what you need. And that's what I did with all these books. And that's when I understood what the near-death experience was. But as I'm going along, I found this book called Astral Traveling. And I went, oh, I want to have a try of that. I'm a theory tester. I want to have a try of that. I'm going to test that theory. I've tested a few already, so I'm going to
do it on purpose this time, right?
And the third time, I left my body on purpose. Yeah. And that's when it really, because I could do that on purpose, it was when it really concreted to me that we have two bodies, or, two elements of ourselves. Mm-hmm. One is this spirit one that we don't see, but we're getting all this information from. And one is the physical side of it. And so that was, to me, the big aha moment that went, that's what it's all about. All this time that these things are happening and everything else. That was the aha moment. It was like, okay, I can talk about the attack now, and I can talk about it in a positive manner.
Mm-hmm. So can you describe what your purposeful astral travel experience was like?
It was short and sweet. So what had happened, it took me 3 or 4 months to sort of get through it. So every night I'd go lay down and I'd go, okay, I want to travel, astral travel, I want to do this. And I can't even remember what it was now, because I went through the book and what it was. And anyway, this particular night, and my daughter does astral traveling all the time. She hates it, absolutely hates it. So it's really funny. But here's me going, I want to do it. So I've this particular night, all of a sudden I am going out over the driveway and I can feel that I'm off the ground. Mm-hmm. I'm light, and you just know the whole area, the whole world, that wherever you're going, it's like a full moon. It's light, but it's not bright light. It's not sunlight. So it's like this full moon where you've got this blue hue to it. And I knew I was doing it. And as soon as I knew I was doing it, because I've been wanting it, I got all excited. And as soon as you put an emotion to it, So the physical body got excited because of the
Uh-huh.
spirit.
Yeah.
Right back into the body.
You fell on the driveway.
I didn't get past the driveway. It was like whoop, straight back into the body.
You woke up outside. You're like, what?
No, I was still in bed, but the old spirit was just going for a fly. So it was really enjoyable. And you know what? I did it once. I've never worried about doing it again. To me, I just needed to get the understanding that yes, we can leave our body. We're still attached, but we can leave the body if we choose to, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Great.
We can do it through protection, like with the attack. We can do it through an illness where you're, maybe on the operating table, or, you get a glimpse of where you're going in the future, and you can do it deliberately through astral traveling. So yes, we do. And that's when I went, so how does that spirit talk to or communicate with the physical body? And that's when I really went deep into intuition.
Cool. Well, I had one happen kind of spontaneously. Probably the only time that I was sure I astral traveled.
Yes.
And I was like up over, I was up in the sky, like say cloud level, even higher. And I could see the land below me and the shape of the land and the water and the outline of a coast. And there was this, almost like the Sydney Opera House from up in the sky, but it wasn't the Sydney Opera House. It was a large white structure stood out, and then buildings, and I could see all this stuff and where it was. And then I knew just intuitively that it was, and I want to, now I'm not sure if I'm remembering right, but I think I knew that it was Taiwan. And And I said,
"Oh, gone on to Google Maps to have a look."
So I did. So I went to Google Maps and I looked at I just searched, the sky view, and I found the same. Coastline. And the large white building was like an airport. What do you call that? Where you park your airplanes? It was a
hangar.
Yeah, it was a large hangar, and everything was the same. And I thought, well, how about that? I must have been there,
what you're calling,
just floating around, and I'm flying. So it does happen, and you talked about past lives. As you may know, I do past life regression. And,
no, I didn't.
So there's a similar thing in like knowing when the people experience it. I often ask for an address, a name, or whatever, a description. And so many times after the fact, you can do research and find the place and find the people and find that this was not just some imagination, that this soul journey was indeed in a different body, as you mentioned before, in a different body before this one. And, so tell me some of the ways that you help other people discover their intuition or to experience their soul side.
Okay. Before we go there, one of the other things, when you're doing astral traveling is, I don't know if you've laid in bed and all of a sudden you get this big jolt.
Yeah.
That's when your spirit's coming back in. It's like you're going too soon. It's like, whoop, come back.
Okay.
So that's one way that people can tell. Now, the question was, how else do I help? How I like to look at, for people to connect with their intuition, we look at this is how I do it. I look at the analytical side of things first, and then allow the intuitive flow to come through, right? So that's sort of how I do it. And people can do that with cards, like a deck of cards. And that is like the visual, the analytical side of it, to allow that intuition to flow. Now, if you're going to a card reader and they start to read the cards and they go, oh, this card is saying that, you're going on a journey tomorrow, or you're going on a journey soon. If they're just actually reading the card, they're not really bringing in a lot of intuition, a lot of flow.
Right.
So you'll be able to tell different card readers. Some will just go that way, and that's what they do. This is an ace of diamonds, and this is a this and this and that.
And it means that, and it means that. Separated from, what does it mean for you?
Yeah. So what I say to people, if you're using the cards, they're a great way to start. But try and sort of look at it as if you're getting other information that's coming through, bring that through as well. But I always thought that the cards were very limiting because you've only got 50 odd in the deck, or a bit more, whatever it is. I used to use a lot of the Oracle cards. So you've only got so many in a deck. And then I went, you know what? With the internet nowadays, we've got access to millions of images. Why are we restricting ourselves to those if the only reason we're using them is to allow that, that's that analytical signal to bring through the intuitive messages. So I started doing flower readings.
Right. And I'm interested in hearing about that.
Yeah. So that is what I do. And I use that as the tool. That's the tool to help connect, develop, and trust our intuition. That's my main tool. There's lots of tools, and people can use any of them.
So what do you do? What do you with that? You've got a flower. You have your book behind you there, right?
Yes. So that's it's called Intuitive Flowers: Empowering Your Emotional Goals.
Cool. So say I came to you and I'm like, I want you to do a flower reading, or I want you to teach me how to read a flower. What's that? What would you do with me?
Okay, so I have a couple of different ways. We could just do a basic flower reading where you go into a light meditation. Now, flowers are our goals in life. So and when we do goals, they often do SMART goals. So you would have heard of SMART goals.
Yes.
Where you have to write it down. Yeah. These are emotional.
Maybe we'll explain it for the audience. So it's, because I also do, I like to talk about practical tips as well. So why don't you tell the audience, what's a SMART goal?
A SMART goal is when we write it all out, and it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be attainable, it has to be, and the SMART,
right.
It has to be realistic.
Realistic, yes.
And then the last T is timely.
Time, yeah.
So it means you write down a goal, and you've got to be able to achieve it in the time frame that you're looking at. It's got to be realistic. So you can't turn around and say, I want to win Tats Lotto, $6 million by Thursday. Well, that's
we do, but how much
really
power
realistic.
do we have over making that? Yeah. So
absolutely. Yeah. But what happens with those SMART goals, and especially when they're business goals, when we have those SMART goals, we can often achieve them, and then they don't mean a lot because we've not put our emotion in. We put the analytic in it, but we haven't put any emotion in it, any feeling towards it. So I call flowers our emotional goals. And what I do is I'll go through a light meditation with you, and I'll just sort of go, if you've got a goal, say you've got a business goal, or you've got a relationship goal or a health goal, you go in and you sort of go, how are you going to feel when you reach that goal? It's all about your emotions. How's it going to feel? Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be joyful? Is it going to be loving? Is it going to be peaceful? And we get into the feeling of what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I say, okay, now really, really, really get into that feeling. And if it was a flower, what would it look like? And it doesn't have to be a particular botanical flower.
Right.
It could just, you just sort of, when I did it, again, I tested my own theory this time. I did it on my business, and all I could come up with, because I'm trying to do my own meditation, all I could come up with was a pink and white flower. So I jumped onto Google and I went pink and white flowers. Now you can imagine how many pink and white flowers come. Yeah. So scrolling through all these images, there was one that sort of gave me a little bit of a feeling. There's one, and I'd get a couple of them, and I just sort of save a couple of them. Then I got one that actually gave me the complete feeling. So it resonated with me. And this is about, that's that intuition coming through, and it feels right.
But it's a good way to teach it, is because people will say, well, I don't really like that, but this one, to teach that draw, that connection, and know, like, I don't know why I like it, but I like it. And that's intuition. Yeah,
exactly. And then there'll be other people that will go, as soon as you said it, straight away, this flower came to me. And I go, okay, look up the flower, because when you think of a red rose could be a bud on the side. It could be a full-blown red rose. It
Yeah.
could be a bush of red roses. So, or a standard rose or a cut
Right.
rose. So there's so many different ways we can look at it. And that's why I say you pick an image, because the image is going to give you 16 different elements in it that's going to tell you about what your intuition is saying to reach that goal. So you see what your intuition is guiding you to.
Interesting. That's fun. Yeah, I like that.
It's great fun. And when I take a look that step further to that, like the art of intuition, when I'm working with groups in workshops, they basically then, what I get them to do is that guided meditation, but they get all that excitement and all that beautiful energy, that emotional energy, the positive energy, and they create a seed and they plant it in their heart, because they don't know they're drawing flowers. When I do that, it's like a sip and paint. When I do the artwork, they don't know they're drawing flowers. All they know is they're coming in to do a sip and paint type thing. So they plant this seed in their heart and it grows into their flower. And then I say to them, okay, here's your paints. And I use the watercolor pencils. Here's your paints. Draw the flower. And they all go, oh,
I can't draw.
Yeah, exactly. They say I can't draw. And I said, doesn't matter. Just start, try and get the understanding of it. And I tell you what, they start to get into it. You show them a few of the techniques on how to use the watercolor pencils, and they bring up some amazing pictures. Yeah. And they, like, one lady did this great big bud, and it she looked at it and she went, it doesn't even look like a flower. It's not very good. I don't like it. And then I started to explain it to her. So we walked through it, and I'd say, well, your goal's still in bud. It's not fully formed yet. It's not fully happening there. And I said, what was your goal? And she goes, oh, we want to build a winery, but we haven't been able to buy the land yet. And I went, there you go. It's still, and then we could actually really narrow it right down to what it was. And even having your paper on a portrait or a landscape will make a big difference. That's your motivation.
Interesting. Yeah. Vertical or setting still, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, when I do it, it's like, that's a positive individual. That's a negative community. And then when we see negative community, it's often you see something negative in the community that you want to help people with. So when I was doing mine, when I was testing mine, my picture was that way. And because I knew what I was doing, I tried to make it square. And I lost the feeling for it. So I had to keep it that way. And in testing my theory, my biggest aha moment was the fact that I'm very, very independent and I don't ask anybody for help. And, like I'm superwoman. Yeah, right. Yeah. My biggest aha moment was I needed, because the leaves are your guides. And I had these great big round water lily leaves. And it was like, round is feminine. I needed to be connecting more with women, not asking men for help, but asking women, or asking the more feminine aspect. And having them all around me. So the support of women, whereas being an independent, individual, I just wouldn't ask anyone for help. So that was my aha moment there. And I had to step in to women's groups and things like that, which I didn't want to do. But that has helped. It's helped a lot.
Yeah, just getting comfortable with that. It's okay to need help feeling too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have family. Are your children grown now, or?
Yes, I've got grandchildren now. Well and truly. And that you can actually see them using their intuition quite surprisingly too, because they're just watching them, what they do and how they do it. You can see that they've got that in there. And one of the things I do say to mums that are having, that have got children that are having like dream issues or, issues with that sort of thing, don't fob it off to say, oh, it's only a dream, or it doesn't mean anything. Don't fob it off. But you don't also have to encourage it too much. You just need to support it. I know, because as the kids grow a little bit older, they sort of go, oh, I might be able to get away with this, and they start to utilize it in the wrong manner. So yeah, you got to get that happy medium. But you do that. You know, when you're practicing or when you're connecting with your intuition, things like keeping your phone face down, and when it buzzes, when it rings, thinking, oh, I wonder who that is, and just trying to get that a picture or an idea or a message that comes through before you pick it up and see.
Yeah, there's so many fun games you can play to build your intuition. Even, and I don't know that this is actually intuition, but a really fun game to play if you haven't heard of this one. And I think it was out of that book, E cubed or E squared or.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah. And so quite a while ago when I read it, they play the game about manifesting, about creating what you want, right? And little games to prove it to yourself. And one of the games somebody talked about was like making a cloud dissipate, right? Watching a cloud and just having it dissipate with intention, right? So there's this one game where, and I play it all the time, but not as much anymore, but it's fun to introduce to people because it's like, whoa, that was weird. That really happened. Is to choose, say, 3 things that are a little out of the ordinary, not completely impossible, but a little out of the ordinary. And at the beginning of your day and say, before the day is over or before the week's over, whatever it is, these 3 things are going to happen. I'm going to see a man in green and orange shorts. I'm going to see
what, unusual.
Right. Well, I wish, well, maybe in Australia, no, it's winter there, isn't it? Yeah. Well, maybe, yeah. Well, now here in the summer, it's not that unusual. Or one of the ones for example, I did it with my nephew one time, and it was, I forgot what the 3 things were. And we had seen the first 2 things. He's like, oh, look. And here's part of like, the reason I'm saying this is because it ties into what you just said about being aware, practicing, opening up your awareness so you're not just going about your business. So it kind of helps you train to open your horizons to see when these things happen, feel or anticipate that these synchronicities are going to come about. So that we're playing and he's like, oh, there's the man in the blue shorts. There's a man in the blue shorts. And I'm like, yay. And we check it off. Okay, there's one. Oh, there's such and such. We check it off. We had gone through the whole day. And one of the things I'd chosen was a black dog with a blue collar. Okay, a black dog with a blue collar. I think it was a red collar. Black dog with a red collar. Doesn't matter. But, and we were at the beach and there were plenty of people walking their dog. And I thought that would be an easy one. Black dog, red collar. We leave the beach. Nope, never did see a black dog with a red collar. Just didn't happen. And I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe maybe it's not all going to happen after all. We decide to stop at the grocery store to get a bottle of wine. We go in, we're standing in the line with a bottle of wine at the checkout counter. And there's a lady next to us holding her cute little dog. And we're like, oh, your dog's so cute. And we buy the wine and then we both look at each other and we look back at the dog and it was a little black dog with a red collar. And he's like, it's the black dog with the red collar. I'm like, there it is. Yes. And so it's kind of fun, on that manifesting end, you can even say, I anticipate that by 30 days from now, I'm going to have a large sum of unexpected money from a positive source.
Yes.
And it happened to me when I did that. It took me 2 weeks to figure out, to realize, oh my gosh, because it happened.
Connect them, yes.
And I had not connected that's where I had set that intention and it happened because it seemed unrelated. Anyway, so there's some fun games for people to play, just play the games, open up to, like you said, when the phone rings, what comes to your mind? Who comes to your mind? A picture, a voice. It's just a great training tool. I love your flowers. Even just choosing a flower to gaze at and say, hey,
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's like I do the free flower readings on intuitive personal development on a Facebook group every Tuesday morning. So that'll be a Monday afternoon for you guys. Cool. But I do that once a week, and we look at the moon plantings, and we just get an understanding of that, because I had a 90-acre organic crop farm for a while, so I used to plant by the moons, by the moon cycles, and it just sort of resonated well with the flowers. But it's amazing what you see in it and what people pick. When I'm doing those free readings, they have to pick a number between 1 and 100. So it's not me shuffling the deck or pulling out the cards or being restricted. They're the ones that are saying, I want this number, and the the image, I bring the image up, the flower image up. And it's, you sort of go, okay, well, you know, your path or journey to get there is this, and your guides are going to help you there. And if it's a business one, the petals are all about your marketing. How's your marketing going? Are you doing it this way? Are you got that one happening?
That's fun. I'm going to have to drop in and ask for a flower reading.
Oh, look, you just send me your flower image and I'll do a reading. And all I need is a one-word goal. So it could be health, relationships, business, finance, just a one-word goal. And I mean, I don't even need that, but it just allows me then to just focus on that side of it. So I can talk about the petals of attraction. So what you can attract. If you're focusing on a relationship or health or business, you want to attract, you know, business, you're going to attract marketing. That's what you need. Whereas with relationships, well, you know, how are you attracting what you need?
Well, fun. You know, okay, so here you can what's the right word? Psychoanalyze me. One of I do psychic and medium readings. So part of my training is to just allow what comes into my head without editing it. Okay. And that's part of intuition too, is just allow it and then say, okay, what does that mean? What's this symbol? What's so as soon as you said flowers or choosing a flower, okay, tell me what's wrong with me. So I got an image of like a black dahlia, you know, that a tall lily like dark purplish black flower.
Yeah.
Well, should I call my psychiatrist now or later?
No. What were we talking about? What were you referring it to? Were you thinking of business? Were you thinking of relationships? Were you thinking about finances?
It was just like pick a flower, and that one went poof. It grew up in my brain, and I'm like, that doesn't seem very cheerful. I don't know. Maybe.
No, do you know what it is? It's very dramatic. It's actually, it's a real statement piece. Oh, well, that's how I see it. When I'm looking at something like that, it's a real statement piece, because you think about it, majority of flowers are bright pink, white, you know, all these bright colors, and you've got this real dramatic, look at me, I'm so different. I'm not bad, I'm different, I'm dramatic, and I see the darkness in that sort of context, and this is just coming through. It's almost like the witch, almost like what people sort of see the witch, and they sort of see them as evil in those Disney movies, you know, that big witch. But the reality is they're not. They're just human, and it's that negative concept that people sort of look at them, and I can sort of see that. I'm not showing you all of me. I'm dramatic. I've got this, and I've got myself in tune. I just see it as so strong. So it's so strong and appealing and full. Yeah.
Well, the word that came with it was powerful.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. And I'm like,
but not powerful in a negative way, powerful in a very internal way.
I'm going to have to start like looking for black dahlia pattern clothing, and I'm looking for that as soon as we hang up.
It's not a full black. It's almost a purple, isn't it?
It is. It's like this deep, rich, purpley black. Yeah, it's not black. It's got, and as an artist, you know, when you mix your own black with colors instead of the flat black that comes out of the tube, it's that black with a lot of alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue in there.
Paint your flower.
Oh, good idea.
And then take a picture of it, and we'll do a reading on it.
Oh, sounds like fun. And well, when I come back onto your show, we can show it and talk about it, and like talk more about intuition and how you turn it on to flowers.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be great. But when you come on my show, we're talking. You're the.
But that will be my flower.
Oh, okay.
Then we can segue. Into how I do it a little bit. Anyway, so we're coming up about 45 minutes, I think, just about that we've been talking, and I could keep you talking all day long, but I know you have the rest of your day to go through, and I have to move into my evening. But I just, want to remind the viewers about your book. All these details will be in the details. Your website is theartofintuition.com. Is that right?
.au. You've got to have the Australian business at the end. Yeah.
Okay. .com.au. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that will be
you can get it through intuitivenature.com.au.
Okay.
Because the Art of Intuition, there is a book. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing.
Okay.
And so I've got Intuitive Nature is my original.
Okay. So intuitivenature.au.com.
No, .com.au.
See, you guys are listening. Don't listen to anything I said before now. Intuitivenature.com.au.
Yeah.
Is where
when you're looking at those AUs and UKs, it's just telling you that it's an Australian business. So we have to be a registered business to get the AU. It's a bit of a safety thing, actually, because anyone can buy a .com and you don't know where that's coming from or who it's from.
It's coming from one of those countries that they have fake everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you see UK or an AU, when you see UK or an AU, you know that it has to be a legally registered business.
Interesting. Okay. That is interesting because I have seen that on different things. And your business is the Art of Intuition, where you have a lot of classes. Online, you do groups, in person, and all sorts of stuff. So if you're in the AU, you know where to find her. She's worth a trip, right? And you have your book. One last thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can learn how to do flower readings. That's what the online courses are, how you actually do the flower readings. Yeah.
Neat. And you mentioned in our notes back and forth that you're working on 2 or 3 more books.
Yes. I'm bringing out one of my life story. I haven't like you've got, but I haven't quite put it all together. So that will have all that understanding in it. And I'm doing like I suppose it's a program called the Trust Mastery Program. And that's sort of, to bring in that trusting your intuition and giving yourself, creating the right decisions going forward in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So it's been like amazing talking to you. And as I said to the audience, I'll make sure your links are down there and I'll make sure I say it right. So I just want to say thank you for being here. It's been a delight talking to you and just learning more about you. And I look forward to talking to you more in a month or so when I get to come on your show. And again, your podcast is the Voice of Intuition podcast, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you can hear her more. You can hear her interviews with other really interesting people and just to get to know her through there. So thank you, Susan Jane, for being here. It's been wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and stop the record and say bye. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you.